a theme of time in episode 9. The most interesting thing about this theme of time in episode 9 is that we, the viewing audience, were included in this theme, which was awesome.
Hey, I'm G, and this is the G-Spot.
The episode opens with Doppelganger Cooper the day after he was shot. He seems to be arriving on a farm, but is it the farm? Well, we don't really know. Remember, him and Ray brought up going to the farm in episode 8. The reason we don't know if this is the farm is because we miss a big period of Doppelganger, Chantal, and Hutch. It's when Doppelganger gets cleaned up. When we first see Doppelganger, he's a mess. The second time we see him, he's all cleaned up. We don't know what type of conversation he had with them while he was getting cleaned up. Now, I do know that the place is owned by farmers and they're dead out back. I realize that. But it still doesn't mean that this is the farm. It just means that this is a farm. Beyond that, we see time with Doppelganger in the sense that it's time for Doppelganger to clean up and move on. Everything we see him do revolves around him cleaning up and moving on. Gets new guns. He gets some new phones. He contacts Duncan Todd and makes sure that Duncan Todd is going to finish off Dougie. He then turns to Hutch and lets Hutch know, I have the Warden and then a double hitter in Vegas for you. Double hitter in Vegas is Duncan Todd and Roger. He also tells Hutch and Chantel to clean up the place that they're at and then get out of there. Doppelganger sends that very mysterious text to Diane. He's initiating something new. We literally see Doppelganger clean up. He comes in dirty, he leaves clean, and move on. He's moving on at the end of the scene. So this really was what Doppelganger's little bit in this episode was about. He was cleaning up and moving on. The theme of time did play through with Dougie also. With Dougie, what we did was learn about his timeline. We learned that Dougie has only existed for 20 years. This was a huge piece of information. When the one-armed man saw Dougie in the Black Lodge, the real Dougie, he said to him, you were manufactured. And this left a huge question. What does that mean, manufactured? How do you manufacture a human being? Do you do it from when they were an infant? And the answer is no. You just pop them into the world whenever you need them there. So apparently it took Doppelganger Cooper about 5 years from the time he left Twin Peaks either to think of adding Dougie to the world or it took him 5 years to figure out how to add Dougie to the world. Because Dougie came into the world 20 years ago. We also know that he's been with Bushnell for 12 years now. And we know that there was a car accident in his past that causes him to act funny sometimes, which again helps support people accepting his extremely bizarre behavior that we've seen in season 3 of Twin Peaks. As bizarre as Dougie's behavior has been, they have left plenty of clues, hints throughout episodes to let us know that it is an acceptable behavior from Dougie. The scene opens up with Dougie's timeline, but then we see Cooper's timeline. How do we see Cooper's timeline? When we cut to the waiting room, we see him get fixated first on the American flag, which represents the FBI. Then we see a woman in high red heels walk by, and Cooper is absolutely focused on these red high heels. Now, two different things came to my mind with the red high heels. One, the Black Lodge, because of all the red. Two, Twin Peaks, because in Twin Peaks, there was a lot of sexy ladies. It was part of the show, and Cooper was attracted to a couple of them. After the high heels, he focuses on an outlet, which would represent his current time. He came out of an outlet. So I do think that we were shown Cooper starting to remember his own timeline while we were given Dougie's timeline. And lastly, in this scene, we see that it is only going to be a matter of time before the FBI finds Agent Cooper. Why? Well, because they have his fingerprints and DNA now. We see that Major Garland Briggs knew what was going to happen in the future in his past. He had everything prepared for when Bobby, Hawk, and Frank, well, Truman, he didn't know it would be Frank, But Truman show up, and Miss Briggs goes ahead and gives them that capsule. Now, this whole thing with Garland Briggs knowing the future while he was in the past does bring up another part of this theme in time, which is something in the background of this entire episode is tons of references to, is it future or is it past? One of my favorite ones was when Diane and Cole were standing outside with Tammy. Diane was smoking a cigarette, and it's a scene of long silence, and Cole standing staring at the cigarette. Now, we know that Cole mentions in an earlier episode he gave up tobacco a long time ago, and then we see Cole smoking. And is it future or is it past? So there were tons of references to is it future, is it past? And there's a bigger reason for this, which I'll reveal at the end. Once they get the capsule from Miss Briggs, they go back to the police station, they open it up, it gives us all these symbols, and they find a date. This is the first date we've been given throughout this entire series. So it's huge that we get that in Twin Peaks, it is currently September 29th, just 2 days away from the dates on the paper. So another thing we can draw from this is that Twin Peaks is running out of time to react to what they don't know about. Something is going down in Twin Peaks, 235 yards from Jack Rabbit's palace. It's happening on October 1st and October 2nd, and they have no idea what it is. It's only 2 days away, and they need to be prepared for it. So Twin Peaks is running out of time. We also see this in some of the more bizarre clips we get during the show, with Johnny Horn's time is actually up. There's something going on with Jerry's foot, and then we also meet Chloe and Ella in the Bang Bang bar at the end. And there's a horrible, horrible rash. And these two talk like idiots. They talk about a penguin. Have you seen the penguin? Do you know the zebra's going to be out again? It's a bunch of nonsense, or almost anarchy. And if we look at them and Jerry, these are all signs that they're running out of time. That there are forces of anarchy, disorder, coming to Twin Peaks, and that they're just about there. They're starting to infect the people already. We get the whole interview with Tammy and Bill. Now, we are able to pinpoint who murdered Ruth Davenport from this interview, which I go through in my video on who killed Ruth Davenport. But we also get another huge piece of information on time, which is Bill writes the date September 20th. And at this point, this is when we become part of the theme, because our whole perception of everything we've seen changes as we realize that Twin Peaks is 9 days ahead of everybody else in the timeline. There are 2 different timelines going on, and we had no idea about this. One other point I want to bring up about episode 9 is it did reinforce some of my Armageddon theory in ways that I was quite surprised about. So for one, there's that little note about putting a handful of dirt in your pocket before you leave Jack Rabbit's palace. They need some dirt with them before they go to this place where the gateway's going to open. Well, what else do you use to carry dirt? Golden shovels. I'm telling you, these golden shovels are going to tie in to the finale of the show. I kind of thought it before. After hearing them say, put some dirt in your pocket, the golden shovels are tying in. 2, Doppeldaddy. Doppelganger's text to Diane had the word dinner table in it. Dinner table is a family word. There's no doubt in my mind about this. If you're not talking about a family around the table, it's just called a table. We say dinner table when it's a family gathered around it. Doppelganger Cooper sent Diane that text to set something in action, and it probably has to do with their son, who we saw in Diane's apartment. Thirdly, now that we see this time difference, we realize that Miss Judy Houseman, who we know is in the Great Northern Hotel, is going to be in Twin Peaks when all this stuff goes down. When the experiment shows up in Twin Peaks, Miss Houseman is going to be there. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to make sure that you're aware of all of my uploads, go ahead, subscribe, ding the bell, and you will be notified every time I upload a video. If you know anybody else who watches Twin Peaks, go ahead and share this video with them. It will give you something to talk about. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.